Hi, in this video I'll be presenting an implementation of the genetic algorithm used to solve a game of tower defense. So first I needed to implement random tower placement to generate the initial population. Before I could create random tower placement, I wanted to ensure that the randomly generated position is valid, as in unobstructed. This function takes the input position, performs a breadth search around it, and outputs the closest valid position around that point. It's also required the find neighbor position functions, which takes a grid position and returns all the neighboring tiles. So now that we have this function, we can generate random towers in random positions. This happens in the AI controller class whenever its tower queue is empty. It will then generate a random position, find the closest available tile, choose a random tower type, and put the tower in the queue. On every update, the algorithm tests whether the tower can be built, and if it can, it will place it, pop it from the queue, and add it to the tower log, which represents the chromosomes used in the genetic algorithm. Next up, we have the population controller class, which stores the genetic data of the population, performs evolution operations, and handles the import and export of files. On the left, you can see the solutions being evolved in real time. As you can see, there are some towers which were illogically placed. However, within a couple generations, those mistakes are overridden. The algorithm could be improved by detecting which towers are underperforming, pinpointing the mistakes that need to be fixed during evolution. Let's now take a look at how the population controller operates. So we iterate the epoch folder, finding the most recent generation. If it's found, it's loaded into the population controller, and if it's not, we generate the initial population. The initial population pushes back an empty population member, which has an empty tower queue, so it just creates random towers every time. Once all the members of the population have been tested in the environment, uh, the population will be exported into a JSON file. The JSON file contains genetic data of the population, so each member's tower queue, containing the tower positions and tower types, as well as the member's score. The population controller will sort all the members in a descending order of score. The genetic data is converted into the JSON format, where each value or a series of values is attached to a particular key in the JSON file. Next, let's look at the import function. Which is basically a reversal of the process. We grab the keys from the JSON file and convert them to data structures used by the program. So now that the program can handle importing and exporting data between generations, the evolutionary function could be implemented. I create lists for the mating pool and the output population, then push the best solution straight into the output using elitist selection. I implemented 3 different selection methods: roulette selection, tournament selection, and truncating selection. Truncating selection chooses the top genes from the population. However, it struggles with escaping the problem local minima. Roulette selection performed best as it gave a good balance between high scoring and middle scoring members. Tournament selection propagated too many low scoring members into the algorithm. Next up, we have the crossover method, which chooses 2 parents from the mating pool and combines their chromosomes. Because I had chromosomes of different sizes, I had to use a modification where the crossover point is chosen from the shorter chromosome member. I implemented point crossover, which splits the chromosomes along a crossover point and swaps their values on the left side and on the right side between the 2 parents. I also implemented uniform crossover, which sequentially picks a chromosome from the first parent or the second parent. Uniform crossover performed better, as point crossover would often copy mistakes of the weaker chromosomes. Lastly, we perform mutation to add more variety to the solution set. Mutation will either swap the position of 2 chromosomes or it will completely randomize the value found at that chromosome. It's important to mention that both the crossover functions and the mutation functions make a copy of the gene board and use the find closest tile function to ensure that the newly placed value is valid for the set. Using this evolutionary algorithm, I managed to create a solution for the tower defense game, which achieves a score of 200 after training for, on average, about 20 generations.